Here we go. It's podcasting time. Dr. Jenna Burton is here. We're at the Rove Hotel, downtown Dubai. If you're watching us on YouTube or any of the other socials, I was trying to get a picture of you. You won't let me take a picture.
No.
But what if we do a picture back to back? No.
No, I was.
You're taking
I'm
pictures of me.
Selfie.
Okay,
that's
send me the
terrible.
selfie. Send me the selfie.
I couldn't take it.
If you're wondering what I'm talking about is I constantly try to update the headshots that I use on, Instagram and Twitter and that of Dr. Jenna, and she absolutely refuses to give me more because she said they always turn out terrible.
No, James has reiterated on many an occasion just how unphotogenic I am. And of all the people that have told me I'm unphotogenic, James has told me that few too many times. So now I
need the photos. I need the photos.
That's not my fault. Have a word with my face?
I just keep going back to some of the old ones.
No, because they're terrible as well.
But you have some good ones. You did a photo shoot at the GMC.
and then I didn't do a photograph at the GMC. The photo shoot at the GMC. I did a photo shoot once with lots of makeup, and then in front of a public forum, the photograph came up, and it's a half decent photograph of me, and you were like, yeah, looks a bit different to me, and I wanted the ground to eat me up and swallow me. So yes, thank you, James. Thank you, James. Yeah, so you're not allowed photographs of me. Full stop.
Okay, thank you. I'll just keep using whatever I've got.
Yeah. And I'll keep complaining.
I think what needs to be done is someone needs to be. So we're doing the podcast here at the Rove. Someone needs to be just taking photos, because then when you're not concentrating on the photographer, I think those are going to be your best photos, because I'm seeing all sorts of great photos right now. But as soon as I lift up the camera, you're going to go, no, not happening.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's probably a science behind it, isn't there? My brother, for instance, he looks cracking in photographs. And I joked him that in real life he's quite ugly, but I'm only joking. He's not really. He's absolutely gorgeous. But that's always been the joke at home, is it's like, David, where do these amazing photographs come from? You look so good. He takes a great photograph, same as my dad as well. Definitely look better on a photograph.
Wow.
But it's I will never be remembered well.
You've got a raspy voice today.
Only a touch.
A touch. You sent me in a note saying, oh, this is great. I'm going to be here on time, but just so you know, what's going on? What do you got?
Well, initially I started with a sore throat last week, and I thought, there's a cold coming.
Yeah.
And more worryingly is I've had quite a few patients that have been in with the flu, and I thought, oh gosh.
Is it flu season again?
I think it's flu season every season.
It's all the seasons. Yeah, okay.
So I thought, oh no, I really can't be doing with getting the flu. Do I start Tamiflu, whatever? And that it's now been quite a number of days in. We're well past the point of it developing into a cold or into the flu. And what I noticed is the sore throat gets a lot worse after meals. So I have a good old hunch that I have some gastritis, because my appetite's gone as well. Gastritis with some reflux, and it's the acid reflux that's causing the sore throat. Also much worse of a nighttime when I'm lying down. So it kind of it's ticking the boxes. Yeah.
So what do you do for that?
Well, you have to treat the gastritis basically and the reflux. So
what do you do for gastritis?
You can take, one, you should check it's not H. pylori, which is a bacteria that can live in the stomach. So obviously I haven't done that, but that's what you're supposed to do.
That's an easy one. You just you do a breath test. Blow into a balloon.
It depends on which clinic you're in. Actually, we tend to do a stool sample in the clinics I work in.
Even
and
better.
We check for H. I thought you'd like that, James.
I just wonder how you squat to get it into the jar. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
Well, normally there's a scooper.
You have to good aim.
I always say to people, this is your homework. Go away and provide me with a stool sample. And a proper stool sample pot will have a little scooper. So you should do it into like a Petri dish, a brown dish.
Yeah.
And then scoop some out into your... it's lovely. It's joyful.
Dr. Neil uses the balloon. He uses the breath test.
Does he? Right. I was actually thinking about going to see Dr. Neil.
You should go see Dr. Neil.
So rule out H. pylori and then treat the acid. So moderate your diet, reduce caffeine, reduce any alcohol. If you smoke, don't smoke. Reduce stress. No, that's the hard one.
That's a hard one.
How do you reduce stress?
I don't know. What do you do to reduce stress?
Well, we both really know, but the actual implementation of doing your meditation, yoga, exercise, breath techniques, etc., and then also try and solve what's making you stressed. And it's not always that easy, but that's obviously another big one, another thing that can increase stomach acid. You've also got proton pump inhibitors, that you can take, but I already take those. So for me, it's more about reducing caffeine intake, etc.
Do you drink a lot of coffee?
I don't, but I drink a lot of carbonated caffeine, don't I?
Oh, because you do the Pepsis and Cokes or whatever.
Yeah, so I've had to take a massive ditch of those.
How's that going for you?
Well, it's not fun. But I have to do it because I need to save the lining of my stomach. So it's one of those. It's a needs must situation.
Oh, man.
I'm normally all about, look, if you need to reduce something, like say someone comes in with high cholesterol, my line to people is always, don't go and live like a rabbit for 3 months to get your cholesterol down for the blood test.
Yeah.
Let's make sustainable change. But there are times when there becomes a needs must. And for me, that's now. So right now, I there's not really much else other I can change other than I've really got to seriously reduce the caffeine. I'm already on the protein pump inhibitors. I'm already doing as much as I can from a stress perspective. I don't really drink much alcohol. I don't smoke. So what's left? My diet's good. There's got to be the caffeine. So that needs to take a quick rein in, I suppose.
All right. Well, keep us informed. How long do you think this is going to last? You've already had a couple of weeks now, right?
No, not a couple of weeks. About a week. About a sort of a solid,
Right.
getting up to a week. Hopefully not long. How long's a piece of string, James? If it's starting to go on for too long, then that is when you should go and get an endoscopy. And you go and see Dr. Neil at Health Bay Polyclinic to go and do something like that. Because if you have prolonged exposure of acid to your esophagus, back of your throat, that poses its own risks. It's not a region that's meant to have acid on it, so you have got to take action then.
Bronchitis. Want to have a quick chat about bronchitis?
Oh yeah, you're already keen to talk about bronchitis. For some
only
reason,
because my wife had bronchitis.
She's still got it now.
So it started to manifest over the break when we were away. And that could have been pollution induced because we were in Bangkok for a bit, and it was pretty Bangkok's Bangkok. And when we came back, it was a brutal cough to the point that I actually sent you a text and said, "Hey, anyone working at the clinic? Do you think?" Because it was a holiday, and anyone working at the clinic, and you gave 2 excellent references. So we did go over to GMC and visited. I can't remember the doctor.
Was it Dr. Carlo?
It was Dr. Carlo. He's a Peruvian guy.
Yeah, he's quite straight to the point, but he's good.
Yeah, Dr. Carlos. Went and saw Dr. Carlo, and he diagnosed it right away. He said, "Oh man, this is bronchitis, and not just a little bronchitis. This is a good hearty bronchitis, like the Pope had." But he was hospitalized. Fortunately, my wife was not hospitalized.
That's good news.
But put her on the steroid things and all this, that, and the other thing. But this cough has lasted. I mean, it was that really obnoxious, hard, hacking, just
dry cough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised how much of it we've been seeing. I don't know whether it's the sand, the dust, whether it's the fact that we had a really rough cold and flu season this year, I think because of the demasking. Really rough. Everyone got properly sick in Dubai, or at least if you didn't get sick, you knew someone that got very sick. And so one of the end results has been a really nasty lingering cough. And you can get pneumonias, for instance, which are infections or inflammation of the lower airways, but your bronchioles are your larger airways. So they're the airways that lead down to your little alveoli sac. So they cannot sit higher up. And when they become inflamed, they can either produce this really hacking dry cough, as you said, or they can produce like copious amounts of mucus. So you kind of get one or the other. And when they have the really hacking cough, it can bring you to cough to the point that you're about to vomit. It's such an aggressive cough. And the sad thing is these can last for a long time.
It's been 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the tail end. It's kind of going down, but I call it my wife's friend. I said, "Oh, you brought your friend with you again today. Good."
That's a bit creepy, James.
It is. I said, "Oh, your friend's with you again."
Oh no, poor Donna, because it's exhausting.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She said, "Look, I'm tired. I've got a headache, and I think it's from coughing."
Yeah, you can't sleep properly.
No,
because of the cough. You think about how many muscles you're engaging to produce such a violent cough. Elderly ladies can often break ribs. The cough is so violent, and sometimes they don't know about it, or they then are in absolute excruciating pain with a part of their chest. And to tell them, look, you've actually broken a rib, but they're like, "I haven't fallen." So no, it's the cough can be so bad, so aggressive, and it's almost like it's a way of protecting your airways. So if you've been sick and you have had an infection that's in there, your bronchioles, one, they become inflamed as a byproduct of the infection. But also, and sometimes it's not even infection based, it can just be inflammation, as you said, from pollution, etc. But then what they do is they become hyper reactive to try and expel any like pollutants or bacteria, viruses from coming in and entering. So it's a way of almost protecting the airways. But sadly, the result is it actually makes people feel dreadful during it.
Yeah. So our big question is, how long is this going to go on? Off the steroids now, which is fine.
Yes.
But it's still lingering. And
if it lingers too long, she should get a chest X-ray just to check there's nothing else.
I think we're given another week, and then it's go back and
yeah.
look.
I think people do get very frustrated though, and I often say, look, the cough's going to be the last thing that goes.
Yeah.
And there are things that we can do. You have to rule out infection. So if there's any evidence that there's an infection there, you have to treat that with obviously appropriate antibiotics. But you've also got things like oral steroids, steroids that can be inhaled, so through inhalers or through nebulizers. And then you also have bronchodilators, like salbutamol, or long-acting ones like salmeterol that you can give. And they help take the edge off, but you rarely find that they completely cure it immediately. The steroids probably work the best, but they're not something that you can be on for the duration of what can be a very long, lingering cough.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Just make sure as well, you've got humidifiers in the room. Try and keep everything moist. If there is if you can identify any allergies that might be causing it, you can try and remove those. Very difficult to do that, of course.
Yeah.
But you can also try an antihistamine at night if you are worried that it's allergy based. And other than that, make sure you raise the head of the bed at night time. Sometimes that can help reduce the cough as well a little bit during the night.
But it's got to do its course.
Usually, yeah. But if you have got a dry lingering cough, it's not something you should leave alone. You should be in a good contact with a physician, because there becomes a point where it's like, right, hang on, maybe we need to check this is not something else. Get your chest X-ray, do breath tests, etc. Just rule out all the red flag items.
You were saying that there's quite a bit of flu coming back into the clinic.
Yeah, there has. Hasn't really stopped, James.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the flu season now just is, as you said, it's just ongoing.
I mean, it's definitely worth getting your flu jab. So even though there's been 2 strains in particular that have really like wiped its way through the UAE, and there was an influenza A strain, then there was a strain with influenza A and B together, and they have made people really poorly. But if we catch them in time, we get them on an antiviral, they can bounce back within 48 hours really quite well. But it's been surprising how much of it I've seen. That and strep throat too. Which was really going through the UK as well over Christmas time.
How do you get strep throat?
It's like with everything. It's just sort of like small moisture droplets that are in the air, etc.
So when someone sneezes, doesn't cover their mouth.
Sometimes it's that, kissing, even being in close contact when you're talking, etc. Also sharing things. I mean, my daughter's a real fan of sharing her ice cream lollipops with the dogs, which I'm always, actively
is it sharing
encouraging
or
her.
the dogs get it? It's like,
a mixture of the two, but sometimes she's like, oh, well, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Neve, that has to go in the bin. But sharing foods and items too. Buffet areas can be. I bet you never go to a buffet because you're so OCD.
I do like a buffet, but it just depends where it is. And I don't know. I mean, usually a buffet is really expensive. And I kind of go, the food's usually just kind of And so you spend a whole bunch of money for just food that's And then I kind of go, well, I could go to a restaurant and order off the menu and probably get better food. And I think when you go to a buffet, my feeling is, so you spend whatever it is, and you feel like you have to eat that value of the food off that buffet.
It just definitely encourages overeating,
so
for sure.
I just kind of, buffet breakfast, all right, you just go and get things.
James.
But they're that was what I loved in Thailand, because I was going and getting the soup for breakfast, because when in Thailand, eat like a Thai, and those soups are just phenomenal.
Yeah, they are.
And
so good for you as well.
Yeah. And so they were always kind of like, oh, you want soup? And they said, what do you want? I said, make the one you would have. And they go, okay. And the guy, or the lady would put it all together. And it was just like, oh, there we go. This is great.
But you know what's the joy about a buffet, right? So when you're in Thailand, you can order that soup, But then you can get like some crazy scrambled egg on the side,
Yeah,
bit of cheese, some cucumbers. You can mix some crazy items you'd never put together.
Yeah.
And that is the joy of a buffet.
It is. It is. I find dinner buffets, it doesn't really matter where you go, it's always the same stuff.
There's always pasta.
Yeah, there's always that thing. I mean, then you can get a roast. And I think there's sometimes I like going to, it has to be a very particular one. So I love going to the revolving restaurant at the Galleria in Dubai.
I didn't even know there was one.
There is. It's in the Hyatt Galleria. I think it's Hyatt Galleria Hotel on down by the water. So if you're right down by the Zabeel, the old Zabeel area, and or the old Palace area, and what's the tunnel down there called? There's a tunnel, but it's in the old part, which is now new because there's a whole bunch of building.
Yeah, it's all being done up.
But the revolving restaurant's still there in this hotel. It's got one of the first it's got the first ice rink in Dubai there, I think. I think it was before Al Nasser. And so it's right down on the water.
So we need to do that. That sounds amazing.
So I like going there because they've got oysters, and so we just don't do a roast at home. So I sometimes like to go for those kinds of things. Like there's food that I just don't make. So if I don't make it and somewhere does it pretty good, I think I'm going to go for that.
And but obviously as well, like when you go to these places, even if it's not a buffet, sometimes the hygiene can be questionable. Having worked in kitchens when I was younger, and that's where things get cooked and spread. And but what do? You can't not go to these places. So ultimately, the spread of disease is always going to be present. Always.
Yeah. So we got to deal with it. There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing they're seeing a lot of is general colitis, gastritis, like gastroenteritis, basically.
Oh.
So a lot of people, especially, during Ramadan, and everyone would have iftars together.
Right.
There was a huge surge in gastroenteritis because people would be going to more buffet-style restaurants. And so sadly, you did find, and often they were outdoors, they were on the beach, etc. I found a lot of patients were coming with sort of upset tummies.
Oh, okay.
But again, as I say, it's not something you can avoid because it's a social thing. It's a cultural thing, bringing everybody together. But the consequence is that sadly you are more likely to get an upset tummy from an environment like that.
So there you go. So just be aware.
Yes, generally.
Keep hydrated. Be aware and keep hydrated.
Well, if you do get gastroenteritis, then one of the most important things is staying hydrated. One of the biggest killers in the world is diarrhea. Yeah. Because especially in third world countries, because they get really bad diarrhea and they don't have the means to hydrate themselves afterwards. They don't have the ability to get the appropriate electrolytes afterwards. So diarrhea can actually be really quite serious. For you and I, we don't even think about it because water is so easily accessible. But yeah, make sure you stay really well hydrated. Use your electrolytes, electrolyte drinks, Diarrhelite, etc. Gatorade, one of those. And that's a sort of a way of coping with it.
Good advice. I actually think, generally speaking, people are underhydrated anyway. Most cases, working indoors, we just take it for granted. Oh, I'm not really thirsty. And I think people generally, that's one of the big problems in industrialized societies is just dehydration.
Do you know, my mum contacted me in a panic the other day. She said, Jenna, I went for my blood test. She had some osteoarthritis and there was a question mark, was it rheumatism? And it wasn't. But anyway, as part of the general workup, they decided to check her renal functions, her kidney functions, and it came back that her kidneys were really struggling. She's like, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? I was like, Mum, when was the last time you drank a glass of water? She's like, well, I don't, do I? You know that, but I drink loads of tea and I drink my wine at night. I was like, it doesn't count because tea's got caffeine. So what you take in, it kind of also encourages you to excrete. And likewise, I mean, alcohol is dehydrating at its very core. So anyway, I was like, they're going to repeat it. So before your next test, hydrate. Take a big bottle of water and just say, right, it's a medicine. I've got to drink it by a certain time. Then take another one. I've got to drink it by a certain time. Just get it down. If you need to add a bit of juice, whatever, fine. But just make sure you drink it. And then her kidney function was completely fine on the second test. But that's it. If you don't hydrate your kidneys, they can't function.
Yeah. So I think this is a big problem. Let's change direction a little bit because the other thing we wanted to talk about was vitamins and supplements. And leading up to that, we were talking about stress. It's got nothing to do with that, but it does. And just general lifestyle and stuff. And I was thinking about myself going, things are going okay and that, but I was trying to think, okay, but things are a little different. Why? And I realized I really haven't been working out like I used to. So I still run and I still walk and do all that kind of stuff. But I used to go to the gym every day or every other day. And I haven't been doing that since pandemic. So almost 3 years. And part of it was because they closed the gym. I used to go to the gym at the university
Oh, right. Okay.
in the mornings. And so it was perfect. Right before class, I'd go to the gym, do my thing, shower, get ready, and then go to class. But they changed, then they closed it, then they changed all the timing. So that timing is no longer available. So I haven't been going to the gym at all. And I realized the other day going, I probably need to start doing something again. So that's on the list for when the semester's over to get back into a routine.
And how has that got something to do with vitamins, James?
Well, because I was thinking
I'm finding
health.
this a tenuous
because
link.
I was thinking about health.
And
I was thinking about when I think about going to the gym and I think about all of the things that line in with working out and just generally living a healthy lifestyle, making sure that you're getting the proper diet fits in there, and in fitting in with the proper diet and hydration and things fits in with vitamins and supplements and minerals.
Well, actually, you're not wrong, I guess, because most of the patients I find.
You see how my mind works.
Yeah,
it's like
you were right.
all over the place though, but it's
but it makes kind of sense.
Yeah.
Most of the patients I find that take supplements and vitamins, they're usually the real gym goers.
Right.
So it's kind of like they tend to be health aware generally. So yeah, it's very rare actually to get a patient that's on anything other than vitamin D that, if say they're not somebody that generally looks after their health and their healthcare. So going to the gym, of course, just to go to that, it's so beneficial in so many different ways.
I see all your Insta with your home gym, and I'm kind of.
I was thinking, why didn't you do that?
Yeah, I even used to do stuff. I really like the body weight exercises on the Johnson & Johnson app. I don't know who the guy is, but he's some famous British guy.
Okay.
Who's a fitness dude. I'll show it to you after. You'll know who he is, I'm sure.
Has he got curly hair to here?
I don't know.
No, okay.
I don't think so. But they've got this app. And when he went and worked with Johnson & Johnson on putting together this fitness thing, there was all these criteria. It is amazing workouts that are all body weight. And I used to do them all the time. I would do them 3-4 times a week. I haven't been doing them, and I don't know why. It's just...
It's hard, isn't it? Because when we get into a new routine, it's actually actively hard to change it.
Yeah.
And then when that becomes the routine, it's easy because the mind basically doesn't need to think anymore. You just automatically do it. So at the moment, your routine is as it is.
Yeah.
It's hard to
So
change it.
I need to change it. The other reason I want to talk vitamins is because I myself went and had some blood stuff done, and they came back and said, man, your B12 is like half of where it should be.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And like, yeah. And so that sort of keyed in with over several weeks. And, we were talking about cholesterol stuff. And I thought, oh man, I'm just going to do all the things you do to keep all these things in check. None of it worked. But I kept coming back to when I was talking with the doctors, I was like, but B12, like why? Like what's going on there? I'm not a vegetarian. And I started going through the list. Stuff happens. And so it's
odd. I often say to patients, there's nothing wrong with taking a good quality multivitamin and a source of oil, so like fish oil, every day. Just do that. Yeah. Like if in doubt, do that. And you're never going to be toxic. You're never going to overdose. You might still underdose on a few things like vitamin D or vitamin B12, but you're never going to be, you're going to supplement enough that you should be able to get by every day. Plus vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. So if you were to take them with like a fish oil, well, then you can absorb them properly into the body. The problem with vitamins is they become very trendy.
Yeah.
And we almost then think, right, I know, I'll go and once a month I'll get an IV vitamin boost.
I have seen those.
Yeah, I mean, they're really big in Dubai, aren't they? They're huge. So I'm not, and in fact, for some reason, a lot of people have approached me about being the one to try and sell them. Now, I do believe in them. There's nothing wrong with having a big gust of vitamins here and there for the right patient. So they're not for everybody, but for the right person. Athletes, guys that are doing like a heck of a lot of exercise. It'd be very hard from a nutrition perspective to take everything you need in through your diet. People that just generally overworked, or they do have poor diet regimes, like people that have got very restricted eating for various reasons, whether it's a lifestyle choice or whether it's because they can't eat certain things because of allergies or intolerances. And also people that are just generally quite run down, so say people that are getting recurrent colds, infections, etc. But you cannot store most vitamins. So if you take one big dose of them today, it will not carry you through for the month. You'll actually excrete an awful lot of them straight through into your urine.
And does that happen also when you take, big dose in pill form, that it goes in and goes out pretty fast?
If you were taking lots of it, yes. There are certain vitamins that you can get toxic on. So, for instance, vitamin D, you can actually become toxic, but the range is so huge, it would be hard. But you can do it, and I have seen people that have overdosed on certain vitamins like vitamin D. So what I would say to people is, if you're going to do these IV vitamins, often the marketing teams will just sell them and they'll say, come get your IV vitamins, come and do it.
I see them at some hotels that I go to.
Yeah, and they're like hangover cures and stuff like this.
Has one, an IV vitamin thing.
If you're going to do it, great, because they're brilliant and there's definitely a place for it. But you should check in every now and again with the doctor to make sure you have a plan. It's like, do your IVs, but then you'd follow up with oral supplementation, appropriate supplementation, and then you'd arrange your next IV for when would be right and when it would be likely that you'd been depleted. Likewise, in our clinic, we do vitamin D injections. And again, great, but you have got to make sure that that's followed up to check that you're not becoming too over or under, because as well with vitamin D, majority of people have got low vitamin D. Like low vitamin D, low vitamin B12 are very, very, very common. Yeah. And you'd think in the UAE, vitamin D is the sunshine hormone. So sunshine vitamin, you'd think we would have raised vitamin D.
Nah.
I think I've seen 1 or 2 patients in the last 12 months that have got normal vitamin D. Everyone's low.
Wow.
So, and we also say...
Mine was okay, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah.
I've now seen 3 patients in the last 12 months.
My D was fine. B12, though, was half of where it needed to be.
Yeah, it's quite common, actually, James, but you'd be surprised. Yeah. And the problem with vitamin D is obviously important for your bones. All the vitamins are good for your mental health and your brain and the creating of neurons, etc. But vitamin D is particularly important because you can't absorb calcium without enough vitamin D.
Ooh, I gotcha.
Yeah, very important for bones. So if you were to look on a pack of like osteocare, it will always have calcium plus vitamin D with it as well.
Okay.
So you take them together. Vitamin B12 is really important for preventing anemias, like megaplastic type anemias, really important for...
That's a nice word, megaplastic.
But really important for the health of your blood.
All right.
But a lot of people tend to be low, and it's quite neglected. A lot of diets change. We eat more processed foods now.
I guess that's what it comes down to, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know you eat plenty of meat, but there's a lot of people that are vegetarian. And if you're looking up where sources of vitamins are, yes, you can get it in green leafy vegetables. Yes, you can get it in nuts and seeds, etc. But an awful lot of it is found in meat and fish, which you wouldn't expect, would you?
No. I would have thought that it would really be spread out more. And I guess if you're looking at green leafy vegetables, how much do you have to eat?
That's it.
and all green leafy vegetables are not the same.
No, they're not. And it also depends how you cook them, etc.
Oh, that's right.
So
I guess cooking can take away some of it, can it?
Yeah, you can boil. If I used to go to my Auntie Kitty's when I was little, let's think about this. She would have started the roast in the morning, ready to be eaten at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I used to love her veg because it was so boiled. It was like mush. But the problem is when you do that, is you actually break down the cells of the vegetables, and then things can leak out. So all the vitamins, etc., go. It's a shame because I love mushy overcooked vegetables, but that's not how we're meant to eat them.
Yeah. There we go. I was going through the list of because you had quite a list going of vitamins. You had B1, B12, B6, A, D, E, K, and K. Vitamin K. I hadn't even thought about vitamin K as I was starting to read about some of these, but it's quite a list. Like when we talk multivitamins, that's where it's coming from. Like it's
vitamin K is very important for clotting, and again, another one you absolutely don't want to be overdosing on either. So that's why, as I say, as a ground level, a good multivitamin never has too much of anything in, which is why it's a really good platform to start from. But vitamin K, very important for clotting. Some people are really well up with their vitamins, and they come in and they know more than I do. You know, they're really like, and I've read about and there is a line between what's clinical medicine and are we getting more on the homeopathic side of things? But generally, it's important to make sure you have got enough vitamins and minerals, etc. And even now in the NHS, they're starting to recognise the benefits of complementary type health and using more natural products like this to try and treat health. So like it might be that it's recommended if you have a cold to take a high dose vitamin C, for instance.
Yeah.
Studies are scarce on how much it helps, but it is believed that it sort of would reduce the severity and the duration of the common cold, for instance, or glucosamine, which you find in cartilage tissue, is often used for arthritis, etc.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, even it's recommended now in the NHS if you're suffering with arthritis to consider taking a glucosamine tablet. Never would have been considered years ago. You never think about these things.
I remember with glucosamine though, it's a long haul. So so many of these things, what glucosamine is one for sure, where you start taking it could be a month, 2 months before you start to notice any benefit.
But that's often a lot of the things that we deal with in healthcare, and patients get bored and they don't see immediate results.
Fix. I want instant. Come on, I take the pill. I should be okay. And it's like, no.
If you want a quick fix, go and see an anaesthetist. Everything they do happens immediately. You want your blood pressure up, they inject it, it shoots up. You want it down, they inject something else, it shoots down. Yeah. Everything else in healthcare takes a bit of time. And I spend so much time counselling patients about what to expect. And I'm fortunate that I work in the UAE and I have the luxury of that little bit more time with the patient. I can do that. Yeah. But in a lot of overseas countries, you get 10 minutes. How do you have the time to counsel somebody and explain what to expect? Expect not to expect anything initially, and that it is going to take time. It's hard to get people's heads into that mindset.
It's also funny when you start looking at some of these vitamins and minerals and things, and you mentioned glucosamine, there's magnesium, there's zinc as well. But when you start looking at the tablets that you might get, and I'm going back to B12 again, this B12 tablet is tiny. Like it is.
You think, how does it do anything?
Well, I'm looking at it going, what is it doing? Because usually when you get, medications and things,
you want a big tablet.
Some of them are giant. Yeah. They're like, they're huge. They're like a Snickers bar. And this thing is just tiny.
Actually, you have to be quite careful about that. There's a medication called Concor, which is a beta blocker. It's bisoprolol, and it's teeny tiny in the shape of a heart, super super small. But I tell you what, if a child or someone got hold of that, I mean, it would do them in straight away. In fact, I'll never forget the time that we thought my ex-husband, he used to take beta blockers, and he left them out, and we thought our cat had eaten them.
Oh no!
So we had to rush the Brahman cat to the vets for monitoring, because they take your heart rate right down.
Right.
So we were so worried about the poor cat's heart, and that's where you got to be really careful as well. Small tablets are sometimes the most lethal, so you got to be very, 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 very careful.
Yeah, the concentrations in them.
And when Donna took steroids, did she get little tiny, tiny pills of prednisolone?
No.
Because sometimes you prescribe like a typical steroid like prednisolone, and they usually come in small increments of 5 milligrams.
All right.
But I might prescribe anything from 30 to 100. So imagine how many pills of those 5 you need. And it's because normally with steroids, if someone's on long term, you have to knock it down slowly. So they're in really small increments.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes people get really panicked that they're taking too many. Yes.
Yeah. It's like you got a whole handful of Tic Tacs that you're just...
when we reach 80, maybe that's what we'll be like with our pill jar.
Oh, you know what? I dread those days coming. And everyone remembers their grandparents or others who've got the pill packet. And they just got to take this day and this
Monday,
that day.
Your Tuesday, your Wednesday.
Like, oh man, I hope I don't get to that point.
Yeah, but you'd rather be healthy and 80.
That's it. Yeah.
Second choice is 80, taking some pills, and then you don't really want to think about the alternative. Surely.
No, for sure, not at all.
So if you need the pills, you take the pills, James.
Supplements. So when we talk about some of these other things, the supplement drinks and that, is that also something that we should be cautious of?
I think generally what you have to think about is everything has got a bit of a side effect, okay? So often the supplement drinks, or like you can buy creatinine, for instance, a lot of bodybuilders are into creatinine. If it's pure creatinine, fine, but what else are they putting in these things? It's like a lot of guys at the gym, they take amino acid supplements.
Really?
Yeah, so like protein drinks and things like that. So either they take amino acid pills, they're usually dairy-based, can really upset people's stomachs. You take protein drinks, again, usually whey protein through dairy, plus they've got loads of sweetness in. And I used to go to a particular bodybuilding gym really early in the morning. It's when I was working with Emirates. So my shift started at 5:30 in the morning. So the only time I could go to the gym was before. So it was a 24-hour gym. So the only guys that were in there were like real keen beans. And they were all passing horrific gas because their GI systems were so upset with all the whey, the sweetness. So it's not just about the vitamins and the minerals that you're taking. It's just be careful what's in them. Barocca tablets, for instance, we mentioned earlier, that a lot of people, they take them with no problems. They're full of vitamins and minerals, but just be careful because some people are really sensitive to the sweeteners that they put with them. So sometimes better in a tablet form.
Okay, good to know. And we're always looking for the quick fix. There is no quick fix, but keep your diet balanced, and it's your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that we have to think about, not just.
There is no replacement for a good quality balanced diet.
Yeah. Oh man. So what do you think in general? What do we have to look forward to in the next couple months when we're talking health and the cycle of things?
In Dubai?
Yeah.
Or worldwide, James?
I'm thinking, well, it could be worldwide, but I think you're probably looking at your own environment these days.
Yeah.
So flu will keep coming.
Flu will probably keep coming, but I'd imagine it will dwindle a little bit more as the summer comes. It's definitely not as bad as it was in January, February, but it's still there. I mean, normally then during the summer, you've got people with stomach issues. And again, it's because of cooking in the heat, etc.
Right.
So you tend to get more of that. People are less outdoorsy. They tend to be more indoorsy. So there's more alcohol consumed. You get more problems like I have with gastritis, etc., reflux disease. Subsequently, a lot of guys then go on to suffer with gout. They have the AC on really high. They've been drinking loads of red wine. At nighttime, they're in bed. The peripheries are cooler. Gout crystals form. You get a lot of that as well. A lot of respiratory illness through air conditioning, asthma flare-ups, sort of, again, the dry hacking coughs, but from a different reason. It's more because it's AC-based. Remember to get your AC cleaned regularly. But yeah, we're going to see a lot more respiratory type stuff, but it'll be less fluey, less coldy, more sort of aggravated airways from the air conditioning, I'd imagine.
Right. When it comes to getting your AC fixed, we will fix it, boys. We do the podcast with them as well.
Yeah.
Get in touch with Colin. WeWillFixIt.com.
Yeah, absolutely. They're great.
All right. Well, so you're prepared. You know what's coming. You're sitting there hoping that you're wrong, but
well, it's you say it's gonna come. And everyone in Dubai and everywhere else, we're all exposed to lots of different things on a regular basis.
And we're traveling more. So it's
spread of lots of weird and wonderful diseases as well. Just watch out. There's been quite a few redback spiders been noted, and they can be really quite nasty as well. The bites. Okay. So if you do get those, or you see a redback and you think you've been bitten, get down to A&E pretty quick.
Okay. On that note, Jenna, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we're back in the podcast land again. Although one would never know we're not in the podcast land because as they come out as they do. But it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a while, but it's been great.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Talk to you again real soon. And where can we find you if we want to find you? Dr. Jenna Burton is all over the socials. Where can we find you if we want to drop into the office?
So I'm in Cooper Clinic on our Wasl Road and in GMC Clinics in Jumeirah 1.
There we go. Dr. Jenna Burton is DocTalk. I'm James Pikeway, coming to you from the Rove Hotel downtown Dubai. Talk to you again real soon.